Good morning. I know a few of you are still finding a seat, but if you could please quiet down, we're going to start. So as many of you know, spring break is next week, right? I know. So if you're anything like me, this week to you is probably one of the toughest weeks of the semester because it's like, I don't actually know if I can make it till Friday because there's just so much in between and you know that spring break is calling your name. So let me encourage you in the fact that today is going to be a lot of fun and today is going to be it's going to be a good one. So I have 5 announcements, so pay attention because it'll go quick. So just after the gathering, the men's soccer team is going to be handing out flyers, and on these flyers is a picture of a jersey. They're running a competition right now to have one of you, lucky men or women, give a design for their third kit for next season, which is just kind of a fancy word for their jersey. So if you're an artist or if you want to just know about, I don't know, if you just want to try drawing, go get a card and you can have the chance to win your own customized soccer jersey. How cool is that? Yes, thank you. So tomorrow, the Girls of Gamma Lambda will be hosting an event in the SAC from 6 to 10 o'clock p.m. and this will be benefiting the Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. There will be a $5 entry fee, and with that you'll get a raffle ticket, and so some of the things you could win are Preds tickets, Braves tickets, gift cards, all sorts of things. So make sure that you go and support them tomorrow. Third thing, if you need a chapel exemption, those are due today at 4 o'clock p.m. So make sure that you have those filled out by 4 o'clock p.m. And here's my second to the last announcement, so everyone please listen. We make an effort to try to be done by 11:35 every single Tuesday because we want to honor your time. We want to honor you being here, and so we want to make sure that we do things in a good amount of time to let you get to class, get to work, get to everything else. But we want to make this a time where we really just want to present something. And so with that being said, please respect our time also by not being on your laptops or your phones during this whole entire gathering. We would really, really appreciate that. Last announcement is we have been showing the Respect Leads video for the last couple of weeks, and that whole entire campaign comes from Colossians 3:12, which says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, hold and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if you have any grievances against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." So with that, please watch this video above.
What is it like to be an African American student at Lipscomb University? At Lipscomb University, I don't feel like African American students are really challenged. I feel like it's more outside of Lipscomb University. As we go out more around people who aren't Christians or people who aren't great people like the people at Lipscomb University, we are judged before they even notice. Our first impressions can be great impressions to y'all, but to them, they don't care about our first impressions. They don't care about who we truly are. They only care about our skin color. I think most people don't understand that being at a school where it's most predominantly Caucasian American, that you tend to stand out more, whether if it's for the music we listen to, the way we dress, our hairstyles, the way we talk, and it goes on. Speaking for myself, I love being with the people I'm surrounded with today. I feel loved. All the people I have met here have made me feel like I can call this place home. I feel like the most typical barriers that African American males will face will be things such as just not getting fair treatments as other students. There can be professors who tend to show more love towards Caucasian Americans or any other race, and sometimes African American students just have to work harder for what they want to earn or what they want to get in their future. We have all these areas of racial tension and racial discussion, but we fail to realize that there's a God overall.
Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Dion Sims. Well, first, I want to introduce Kendrick. His name was not even in that video. Kendrick McLemore. He's a freshman here at Lipscomb. Yeah, give a hand for Kendrick. Yeah. So yeah, my name's Dion. I am one of the students. I'm a part of the Respect Leads committee. We were commissioned by Dr. Lowry to lead our student body and create new initiatives that would help implement and embed the culture of respect on our campus and in our community. As we just saw with the video with Kendrick, he just allowed us to take a step into his shoes to see from his perspective. And there's so many different cultures and backgrounds on our campus, and we would never get that opportunity to hear their story if we didn't seek out that dialogue, if we did not intentionally seek those conversations in places where we can learn about people who look different than us, who have different backgrounds than us. This video is just the first step that we plan to take in continuing this conversation in this community. We not only hope to shed light on the complex realities and difficulties that many of our students face, but we also hope to ultimately create a space that we can grow in our understanding of each other together. So with that being said, a slide should be coming up. I can't really see, but we're going to continue this conversation with two different talks that will be led by Respect Leads. One will be on March 29th and the other on April 12th from 9 to 11 p.m. in Swang 110. Rumor has it pizza will be provided. Be on the lookout for more details as that comes. But yeah, seriously, guys, come to these things, these talks. They're great opportunities to learn from each other, and you would be surprised the stories that are on this campus. So yeah, that's all I got.
Good morning. We are so excited to have some very special guests with us this morning. We've got Stephanie, Josh, and Matt here from an organization called Axis. So they're going to go ahead and come onto the front. It's going to look a little different today. They're actually not going to use the stage. They're going to be kind of down right here. But these are our friends, yeah, Stephanie, Josh, and Matt, and like I said, they represent an organization called Axis that's based in Colorado Springs, but they travel all around the U.S. and even go into Canada, having conversations, speaking about media, culture, and worldviews, having conversations, really important and valuable conversations, I think, for this community, for this university, and in our day, just about how faith affects culture and how culture affects faith, and like, what do we do as Christians in the midst of all of that? How do we stand strong in our faith and also understand how to live amongst the people of our culture? And so we're excited that they're not just with us here this morning at the gathering, but they're going to be with us for a few days this week doing some other events that you'll hear about later. But on this trip specifically, they've gone to South Carolina and Birmingham, and they just recently got to Nashville and have said they've really enjoyed their time here so far and have enjoyed being a part of our community here at Lipscomb for a few days. So if you'll join me in welcoming them. Thanks, guys.
Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to be with you all this morning. It is seriously so good to be at Lipscomb. It's so good to be in Nashville. What a cool city you guys get to go to college in. I just love it. It's incredible. We are Axis, as Nicole mentioned. We're from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we do travel quite a bit and speak about media and culture. We're going to be doing a little bit of cultural analysis this morning. Our presentation is called Lost in Translation. And that's because we really believe that God has a very good design for the world, a very good design. But oftentimes that design gets lost in translation because of a variety of things that are going on in culture. And to kind of kick us off, we want to kind of ask this question. What does it mean to be human? Because no matter what your worldview or your background is, it's really important to address this question, to come up with a satisfactory response to this question. And we're going to be zipping along here. It might feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant in some ways. And we just want to acknowledge that we'll probably start a lot of conversations this morning. But if you have any thoughts about what we share, if you have any pushback even, or you disagree with something, we would welcome you to kind of approach us as we're on campus these next couple days, and we would love to dialogue with you about it. We're going to be bringing up a lot of large conversations. And as we ask this question, what does it mean to be human? We know that culture gives us a variety of responses to this. We hear messages all the time like, be authentic, right? Follow your heart, be true to yourself. This is something that comes at us in so many different forms. And there is certainly truth and beauty in the concept of being authentic. But we want to take a step back and kind of ask, okay, so what does it mean to be authentic? And if culture tells us we define that for ourselves, our question is that true? And in order to understand that, we have to look back at the beginning of our story.
And our story as Christians starts with creation. God created something from nothing. And it was beautiful and it was a good creation, but God didn't stop with just a good creation. He created a very good creation, that being man and woman made in his image. And he created man and woman so that they could cultivate the earth, they could protect it, and in doing so, like, help the earth to flourish.
And this is where we meet the first human characters in the Bible, Adam and Eve.
They're both individual characters, but they're also representative. Adam is the Hebrew word for humanity, and Eve is the Hebrew word for life. And God creates them in his image. In other words, humanity reflects, or is meant to reflect, the creativity, the goodness, and character of the Creator out into the world that he's made. And they're supposed to reproduce and make cultures and neighborhoods and art and gardens and everything else.
But then the world doesn't just follow that perfect system, right? Sin enters the picture and things get broken. Like the plan changes a little bit, right? Because humanity makes a very different choice. And Ravi Zacharias, apologetics extraordinaire, kind of helps us understand what this choice meant when he says that essential to the created order was a moral framework that the creation was not to define. Eating fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil gave humanity the power to redefine everything. So humanity starts to redefine things, and we redefine it with ourselves at the center, right? As is natural. That's kind of the way we tend to do things. And we create this very self-centered society, an individual purpose, and it's almost to the level of narcissism, isn't it? Where our purpose is now at the front. So since we're defining things and humanity thinks that's a pretty big thing, let's define freedom right now. I literally want you to turn to the people next to you and tell them for 30 seconds what you think the perfect definition of freedom is.
So there are a lot of different definitions for freedom. I just had a great conversation with Jackson here about what he thinks freedom is. And I know that I could go to everybody in this room and we would all have a different definition of what freedom looks like. Some would say it's being able to make a choice. Others would say it's being able to do whatever you want with no boundaries. But whatever your definition of freedom is, we need to acknowledge the fact that we live in a very unique cultural moment. This is a moment where on average we see 3,000 ads per day. And each of these ads is selling us a product, definitely, but beyond that, it's selling us an idea. It's selling us what the good life looks like. It sells us what happiness looks like. And whenever we start being sold those ideas and it's constantly focused on us, it becomes very me-centered, it becomes very narcissistic. And so what we want to do over the next few minutes is we want to kind of look at 4 cultural shifts that have taken place that kind of show us, okay, how did this me-centered narcissism, how did this show up? How did this me-centered world come to be?
And the first shift we see is that we now live in a world of almost limitless choice. I mean, even in small things, if you think about it, it used to be vanilla, chocolate, Neapolitan. And now, especially if you bring froyo into the picture, our options and combinations are literally endless. Think about music. People used to be confined to what they had purchased or maybe what was on the radio at that moment. And now with Spotify Premium, I can literally download anything I want and listen to it anytime. So we have this world of choice, but this extends to more serious topics as well. For example, did you know that you can actually choose between 56 different gender options on Facebook? Yeah, I was surprised to find that out. Now, all three of us, we know people who struggle with gender identity and sexual orientation. And so we want to just acknowledge that that is a complex and personal conversation for probably most of us in this room. But it really requires us to wrestle with, okay, so what does God say about this? What is the loud narrative that culture is speaking about this? And which one is going to lead to freedom? Or to ask more broadly, it's important for us to really wrestle with not only what we believe, but also why we believe it. Because here's the thing about humans and endless choice. If we think about it, we don't actually have the best history with it. We learned even back in the Garden of Eden that we have a tendency to choose what feels good now or what looks good now, and maybe not what will lead to flourishing in the long run. And so we have to consider that we have this tendency. And C.S. Lewis actually talks about this in his work, The Weight of Glory. He says, we are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased. And I love what Lewis is saying here because he's pointing out that it's not that our desires are too strong, they're actually too weak, and our vision is too small. And so in this world of endless choice, how do we translate God's beautiful design to the world? Well, we have to show the beauty of sacrifice. And we have to show this weird paradox within Christianity that if we're willing to give up our way, if we're willing to give up our mud pies, as C.S. Lewis would say, then God is there offering us infinite joy.
But this cultural shift goes way beyond choice. It also comes in the idea of now. And kind of the best way I know how to describe this is with avocados. I think they're great, but they're a seasonal product. They're a seasonal produce. And now, no matter what season it is, we have the ability to have avocados right now. Or think about the information that we take in. I have the ability to look up one word and have billions of options immediately, and it'll even tell me how much time it took because we want it now, and we want that distance between getting information shorter every single day. But it also goes beyond that because now we have the ability to go anywhere that we want. We have the ability to travel anywhere with virtual reality. I don't even have to get in my car anymore. I can sit on my couch or in my bed and just be transported to somewhere else because that's where we're at. We want things now.
Speaking of not leaving your home when you don't want to, how about our entertainment? It's changing. The availability is rapidly increasing, right? We have on-demand television, on-demand movies whenever we want it and kind of however we want it, and it produces this different sort of viewing style, right? Where we're no longer just watching one movie or one or two episodes rerun of TV shows. I'm watching like half of Parks and Rec in one weekend all at once. And we binge, it's kind of the way we go. But it's because we have this need, this like insatiable need for the now. And advertisers and companies understand this and they're giving it to us left and right.
You've been eye-guzzling that show for 58 episodes. But oh God, there they are. The final credits. Your favorite show is over. You've fallen into a show hole. Your TV life is ruined. Hopeless, showless. The struggle could not be more real. Might as well put your TV on Craigslist under free stuff and go die. Then you see it. Salvation. Because with Amazon Fire TV's vast library from Netflix, HBO, and Hulu, your new favorite show is waiting for you. Smiling. So long, showhole!
And maybe one of the most insightful commercials I've ever seen. And it's brilliant, right? Because it taps into and it touches on exactly what we think and feel about our entertainment and about our shows. So how do we approach that need for the now and that culture of immediacy that we live in and we're surrounded in and I buy into every day? Like, how do I translate that to a God-centered world, well, maybe it's time to downshift just a little bit. And pause for just a moment. And it's awkward and it's uncomfortable, but it's going to present a totally different reality for us than when we're running that breakneck speed and that rat race life all the time.
So we've seen that there's a world of choice. We've seen there's a world of now. And the third shift we've seen is kind of the way we are interacting socially. This is one of the most obvious things that's very different in our world today than it was even 10 years ago, I would say. And anytime we create a technology, we're going to change the way we interact. But that doesn't have to be a screen-based technology. And in fact, this is Willis Carrier. I'm curious, how many of you know what he's known for? Does anybody know? What did he create? So I didn't know this until I learned it recently, but he actually invented the air conditioning unit in 1902. Now, I think that is a beautiful invention, and I am very thankful for the work of Mr. Carrier. But even this invention changed the way people connected. Because if you think about it, before this, people had to be out on their front porches, kind of having this village mentality, kind of visiting with one another, trying to get the last breeze of the day. But then after AC was created, things changed and people retreated into their homes, so it became a little different.
And even in our modern context, on average, we spend about 9 hours a day on just consuming media, and this is excluding work, this is excluding school, this is just for entertainment purposes. And this number keeps going up. There's a new study that says preteens are watching 11 hours, so it's that number is spiking rapidly. So we are consuming this, and it is changing the way that we are interacting with one another. Because 53% of millennials would rather give up a sense of smell than their smartphone. So there's something that's going on here when you would rather be able to take a picture of the waffles than be able to smell them. I think that that's really unique. But the way that we are engaging on social media is changing as well. Mark Zuckerberg understands this. He even says that coolness is done for us. Because the largest growing demographic on Facebook right now is grandmothers. Oh man, it's sad. But the way that we are interacting on social media is changing. He knows that because we're in this social media 2.0. 1.0 was Facebook. It was MySpace. It was Zanga, if that's your thing. And it was all of these one-stop shops where you'd be able to post whatever you'd want, listen to music, whatever. Now it's much more segregated. It's in your pocket. It's really easy to access. It's multiple. It's image-based, multiple apps all in one. And whenever we do that, whenever we are kind of branching out to all of these different apps, we are kind of destroying our ability to have a conversation.
So what is the problem in having a conversation? Well, it takes place in real time, and you can't control what you're going to say. And that is the bottom line. Texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present the self as we want it to be. We get to edit, and that means we get to delete. Instead of building true friendships, we're obsessed with endless personal promotion, investing hours on end building our profile, pursuing the optimal order of words in our next message, choosing the pictures in which we look our best, all of which is meant to serve as a desirable image of who we are. We're expecting more from technology and less from each other. The social networks aren't just changing what we're doing, but also who we are. And that's because technology appeals to us most where we are most vulnerable. And we are vulnerable. We are lonely, or we're afraid of intimacy, while the social networks offer us 3 gratifying fantasies. 1, that we can put our attention wherever we want it to be. 2, that we will always be heard. And 3, that we will never have to be alone. And that third idea, that we will never have to be alone, is central to changing our psyches. It's shaping a new way of being. The best way to describe it is, I share, therefore, I am.
In a world where we have the ability to edit ourselves, to look however we want, and to reach a certain status, to kind of connect us back to God in all of this, we just need to be vulnerable. We need to be posting vulnerable things. And that's difficult, that's not easy, but that's how we kind of fight against this me-centered culture.
And in this fourth culture shift that we're seeing, the me is full-blown and center now because this is all about me at this point. And this may not be a new change, but it's definitely more prevalent than it's ever been. And it's the idea of God. And I'm not just talking about the Christian God that probably gets brought up. The idea of God, who is this all-powerful, ruling sort of deity that we have to figure out because it seems really important in life to figure that out, right? And now more than ever, we had these old scripts, right? These books that gave us a pretty authoritative call to look outside ourselves at this bigger thing, at the bigger world, and focus more on that than anything else. But now, it's a lot easier and a lot more attractive to really buy into the new, more powerful cultural call, this new sort of script, to look inside ourselves, find some sort of subjective truth and happiness. And we see it in all different pockets of culture, music, movies, etc., even from Nick Jonas in the 50 Shades Darker soundtrack.
You played it front, I played it back. You be the first, I be the last. I call it good love. Yeah. Every kiss and every touch is like a hit, it ain't enough. I call it good love. 'Cause I'm an addict, I'm your patient. Your lips to the medication.
I don't know if any of you were Joe Bros fans back in the day. I actually saw them 3 times back in 2008. But Nick Jonas has come a long way. I heard a whoop back there. I appreciate that. He's come a long way from the days of the Jonas Brothers, and we're seeing just a very different picture here. And in this song, we have words like, I'm an addict, I'm your patient, you give me bad love, but I love it. And then, of course, zooming out to this movie franchise as a whole, we kind of see this destructive and dysfunctional relationship kind of elevated as really romantic and exciting. But if like Matt was talking about, our world really is all about happiness and pursuing whatever we enjoy, then it really shouldn't matter, because anything goes. And Miley Cyrus actually describes this well when she says, I am literally open to every single thing that is consenting and doesn't involve an animal, and everyone is of age. So this is her ethic. It's pretty much just anything goes. Our own happiness, our own satisfaction is the end goal in life, no matter what that looks like. But those of you who are Mad Men fans might remember that Don Draper points out happiness isn't the best basis for satisfaction.
But what is happiness? It's a moment before you need more happiness.
Puts it nice, short, sweet, and simple. So in a world where happiness is the end goal in our culture, how do we translate God's design? Well, we have to demonstrate a bigger narrative, because of course it's easy to latch onto the narrative that we can live for whatever satisfies us in the moment. That's an easy narrative to be a part of, but it's very self-focused, a very self-focused script. And we need to show the world that there's a bigger narrative at play here. The world is so much more than just being about us and our own satisfaction. There's the kingdom of God coming to earth. There's living for the glory of God. There's kind of turning our focus out from ourselves and onto others. And that actually ends up paradoxically being a more satisfying way to live. And so we've just walked through kind of pretty quickly here 4 main shifts that we've seen in culture and 4 ways to kind of step outside the cultural framework and cultural moment and demonstrate an alternative narrative to the world. At the beginning of this presentation, we asked the question, what does it mean to be human? Huge question. We could talk about books have been written about that. But I want to ask you this. Earlier we said that authenticity is kind of the chief virtue right now in our culture. That's the main thing that we're shooting for. So what's the opposite of authenticity? If that's the chief virtue, what is the opposite? Well, maybe it's something like hypocrisy, living a lie, kind of saying one thing and living opposite to that. But I want you to consider with me for a moment, if authenticity is the chief virtue, but we are being authentic to our fallen selves, or being authentic to our sin nature, then perhaps we could say that authenticity has become the new hypocrisy. Because if we're being authentic to the wrong version of ourselves, that's not how we ought to be living. That's not going to lead to true flourishing and to true freedom. And so how we actually live authentically and live for flourishing and for freedom is being true to our redeemed selves and living into the narrative that God has spoken over us and his design. And G.K. Chesterton describes God's design as this: the more I considered Christianity, the more I found that while it had established a rule and order, the chief aim of that order was to give room for good things to run wild. So the very good design of God gets lost in translation sometimes in our culture, but we need to translate it back to the people around us and show them that Jesus has come to give us abundant life and that his boundaries and his design are truly to lead to our flourishing. Thank you guys so much for being with us this morning. We've really appreciated it. I want to say real quick that we're going to be doing a couple other things while we're at Lipscomb, and we would love to connect with you. First of all, we're doing a presentation called We Are What We Love tonight in Ezel 301 at 7. And then tomorrow we'll be doing one called Spend Yourself at 7 in the same room. But then for those of you who might say, hey, I might be interested in speaking and traveling, we would love to connect with you all because we have internships with Axis where you get to travel and speak. And so we'll be in the Student Center tomorrow from 9 to 12, and we'd absolutely love to connect with you all. Thank you, and with that, I'll hand it over to Gabby.
Hi friends, so we just want to take a minute to thank Axis again for being here. We really appreciate y'all coming. So my name is Gabby Canone, and I'm one of the students organizing and leading Stand Together Lipscomb. Stand Together Lipscomb is a campus-wide initiative to engage one another in conversations that surround our culture. We live in a world that expects us to be divided on all issues. As followers of Christ, we hope to respond as people who chase wholeheartedly to breaking down social norms and working towards unity as one body, which the early church fought to establish. Our hope is not just for this campus or our city, but around the world. Our mission is simple: to educate, advocate, and act. We all know that as college students, money is not our best contribution to global issues, but that doesn't give us a free pass to ignore the cultural divides that surround us. So I am asking you to take a minute to invest your hearts towards caring for the things that break the Lord's heart. The first initiative we are turning our attention to and our hearts towards is the global refugee crisis, and I have 3 easy ways for you to get involved. The first is educate. Let's become familiar with the truth about forcibly displaced people around the world. Did you know that out of the 60 million plus refugees worldwide, more than half of those are children? Or what about the fact that the average refugee will spend 16 to 18 years in refugee camps before ever resettling? If you want to stay up to date on the most recent facts facing the refugee crisis, follow us on Stand Together Lipscomb on Instagram and Facebook to receive daily photos, updates, and details regarding weekly events we'll be hosting on campus. The second step to get involved is advocate. In order to advocate well, we have partnered with our friends from World Vision. When you leave here today, you'll see 2 tables on the way out where you can grab a packet like this one, that we invite you to share with a friend, a mentor, or a family member who you believe may be interested in supporting World Vision's Refugee Fund at a $29 per month commitment or more. If we as a community find 300 people who can make this commitment and pledge, then we as a community can raise over $100,000 this year towards supporting refugees worldwide. That's pretty incredible, y'all. Finally, we have the third step that you can take to get involved is ACT. And we are hosting a little walkathon on campus on April 1st. And it's to resemble the 2,000 kilometers that the average refugee travels to find the nearest open border. At this walk, you'll be given a key to hold on to, which is the last thing that these refugees have as they leave their homes before they know where they'll be staying next, before they it's the last thing that they have to hold on to. And so the purpose of this event, this day, is to celebrate what we have learned, the awareness we have raised, and to keep discovering how we can lead others into getting involved with refugees and immigrant communities in our very own city. So we'll have nonprofits there and food, and it'll be fun. We'd love to have you all there. Lastly, if you're passionate about this conversation and seeing our community stand together as one body, stop by the campus ministry office or find us down in the front after the gathering. So you're invited. Come stand together with me, with your friends, with this community we all call home, to help us reach our goal to become united as one body through education, advocacy, and action. Thank you. And Cyrus is going to pray us out.
Thank you, Gabby. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today. Today was, for me, very fun to watch our younger generation. This was probably the youngest team of people we've had on this platform all year long, and one of the most impressive. So to our own students who led, to our friends from Axis, thank you guys for being here. 2 reminders as we leave. There are these waiting by the doors on your way out. It's not, you can't sponsor a refugee child because of the nature of this conflict, of the nature of displacement, is that you can sponsor a fund that gives child safe spaces, food, water, education, and intentionally focuses on restoring the dignity of women and children all over the globe. The other thing that I want to remind you of is that the men's soccer team will be right outside the doors handing out a flyer, a submission form for you to win your own jersey in support of designing their third kit for next season. Your men's soccer team, your men's basketball team, a lot of our athletics, you guys, we want to support them in any of the initiatives that they leave out. So connect with them, say hi, and if you have more questions about World Vision, Stand Together, there'll be some people down here. Access will be down here. Let me pray, and then we'll go. God, we love you, and we just thank you that you've invited us to place our hand in yours and to join you in the global mission and vision that you have for the restoration and the redemption of all people, not just here in the U.S., but around the world. And God, where conversations can be confusing and divisive, we ask that you just give our heart humility and peace to place our hand in yours and join you in what you're doing in this city and around the world. Can we not focus on the barriers that keep us from action, but Lord, will we do what we can with what we have and where we are? Jesus, thank you for these students, the amazing passion and conviction that they walk with. I pray that as we leave today, this campus and this city would be different. Jesus, it's through your name that we give thanks and pray all of these things. Amen. Lipscomb, y'all are dismissed. Thank you.